Hello, so I am looking at writing the equations of lines in slope-intercept form that are parallel or perpendicular to a given line. I'm going to do this first one. Well, really, whenever we're asked to write the equation of a line, I like to start with the point-slope formula, especially since what we're given here is just some point, and we're trying to find the equation of the line. So the point-slope formula is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And so looking at this first problem here, it says we want it to pass through the point 16, negative 1. So that's going to be my point that I use for x1, y1. So I can say that's my point, x1, y1. And we want it to be perpendicular to this line. So what that means is that if it's going to be perpendicular to this line, if I were to distribute here, I would get y equals 4/5 x minus 28 over 5 plus 1. The rest of the equation doesn't really matter. What matters to us is the slope. The slope of this line is 4/5. If we're trying to find a line that's perpendicular to that, then we need to use a slope of negative 5/4, because the rule for perpendicular lines is that their product is negative 1. And so if I were to multiply 4/5 times negative 5/4, then that equals negative 1. Another way to think about it is that it's the opposite reciprocal. So this is what I'm using for my slope. This is the point that we're working with. And so now I can put that into my point slope formula. So it's y minus the y value, which is negative 1, equals my new perpendicular slope, negative 5/4, times x minus the x coordinate of my point, 16. And so this simplifies. I can distribute that y minus negative 1, that's going to be y plus 1. And then the negative 5/4 times x is negative 5/4 x. Negative 5/4 times negative 16. Let's see, the negative times the negative is a positive, and I can simplify this. 4 cancels out here. And so this will give me positive 20. And so my last step to change this into slope-intercept form is to subtract 1 from each side. So my equation is y equals negative 5/4 x plus 19. And so that gives me the equation that is passing through this given point and perpendicular to this given line. And so now let me clear that, write that answer here. So that was y equals negative 5/4 x plus 19. For the next one, they want us to write the equation of a parallel line. So again, I'm writing the equation of a line. So I'm going to start with point slope. Y minus the y coordinate equals the slope times x minus the x coordinate. So again, this time my point is this 2, 1. So that's x1, y1. And now I want it to be parallel to this line. And so the rule for parallel lines is that they have the same slope. So in order for it to be parallel to this line, the slope must also be positive 2. So we're not changing it in any way. If it was perpendicular, we would use negative 1/2. But because it wants us to be parallel, then we're going to use that same slope. And so I'll plug that into my equation here. Y minus 1 equals the parallel slope times x minus 2. Distribute. So we have y minus 1 equals 2x minus 4. And then add 1 to each side. Sorry for my sloppy handwriting. And y equals 2x minus 3. And if you notice, sometimes people get confused because this might not look like it's going through that point. We don't see that coordinate anywhere. But if I were to plug in x equals 2 and y equals 1, it is a point that is on this line. And because it has the same slope, it's parallel. So our answer here is y equals 2x minus 3. And that's how we can find the equation of parallel or perpendicular lines. Thanks.